The committees here are ranked based on how much money you can raise if you're on that committee. An A committee, you should be able to raise, $500,000 easily every election cycle from the lobbyists if you're on an A committee. I'm on B and C committees, but they're important committees to my constituents. The Transportation Committee, right? Our roads and bridges should be pretty important, right? It turns out there aren't a whole lot of lobbyists here in Washington, D.C. interested in roads and bridges, though, and so it's a B committee. Veterans Affairs, that's a C committee. What if people back home knew that taking care of our veterans was considered the lowest priority committee in Congress?
Are you closer to God when you are in Colorado, or are you closer to God when you're in the swamp? God's up there. So when you're in Colorado, you're just a little closer to God. And so the legislation that comes out of this place is really, really bad.
This is my congressional pin, and you'll see a lot of people around here wearing them. I try not to wear it all the time. I call it precious.
I had to go to the restroom. Patrick came in there. I says, Patrick, come on, man, you know that bill doesn't do that. It doesn't deport anybody. It doesn't break up families. This is what he does. Politics.
I mean, she makes way more sense than half the people in Congress. What are you looking at? What are you looking at?
Episode 3. I know we're going to get the word prostitute in there somehow, Ratika.
Well, in September of 2012, John Boehner did a fundraiser for me. I got elected and took office in November, and by December of 2012, I had joined a coup to get rid of John Boehner. It didn't take me long, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after being sworn in, to see how messed up this place was. There's a way to order things, but what we have here is chaos.
Yeah, that chaos, you hate to think that's by design, but sometimes you think it is by design. Crisis management in government leads to $21 trillion in debt. Crisis management leads to poor policies. And when we had that 2,232 page come out, that bill for the omnibus on March 23rd, that not one person read, I've been on the record as saying if anybody voted for that bill, that's legislative malpractice, and they don't deserve to be here and have the trust of the American people.
Of course, I think that's all bullcrap. You shouldn't vote for an omnibus. You shouldn't vote for anything you haven't had time to read. I remember the first time I voted no when the party was voting yes, a staff member came to me on the floor and told me that I had made a mistake. And I said, well, actually, that's how I meant to vote. And she said, well, if you want to know what's in this bill, you can go over to the leadership table and they'll explain this bill to you. And I said, I read the bill, that's why I'm voting no. And she said, well, we're not whipping the vote tonight, so you can vote how you want on this one. This is a staffer. I've been here like a week, and she's giving me permission to vote my conscience, to vote for my constituents. It was ridiculous, but that was just the tip of the iceberg.
The system is just broken.
Lobbyists have a legitimate function and a function that's not so legitimate. The side that is a little less desirable or a little slimier is the money side of politics and the lobbyist's role in the money side. One wise old sage said was the mother's milk of politics, and that is money. And you can't run for office without money, and so lobbyists provide part of that money.
We got introduced, I'm not going to mention any names, by somebody that was in charge of one of the congressional committees, the outside one, and they said, let's get down to it. You're here because of the help we've given you. Your job is to raise money, to give it to the Republican Party, and if you want a committee chairmanship, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. I was highly offended because I didn't come up here to play that game. I don't think you should have to pay to play. If you do what you're supposed to do, and you stand true to the values that you ran on, you'll get reelected by the people that sent you here. Take care. Proud of you.
A week after the election in November, there's an orientation week. All the new members are invited to DC, and there is reception after reception after reception. But it's all designed to introduce members to how DC works, introduce members to the fact that there is a good life. If you play ball with the lobbyists, if you play ball with the power structure in DC, there's a very good life that you can lead. If you don't play ball, there's a set of punishments, there's an ostracization. Whatever that word is, they will do their best to isolate you and make sure that they take you out and that other members are elected that can play ball or that will play ball with the lobbyists and the power structure.
I had a lobbyist in the medical device industry, and he said, Thomas, you're different from these other congressmen. You're smart, you know what you're doing, you understand technology, you're wasting your time on those B and C committees. You need to be on an A committee. In fact, you need to be on the Ways and Means Committee. And my lobbyist friends and I are prepared to raise the amount of money it's going to take to get you on the Ways and Means Committee. I wanted to run out of there. And when I did get out of the basement of the Capitol Hill Club after his proposal, I was trying to find a shower. I had to get the scum off. Just being part of that conversation felt dirty. My assessment is $300,000. That's what I'm supposed to pay to rent my position on these 3 committees. And note, your assessment is subject to change based on leadership roles. In other words, if you get more power here, they're going to charge you more. And if you can't pay today, just sign this piece of paper pledging that you will make this payment in full before the due date. In fact, they'll fold this sucker up and stick it in your pocket on the floor of the House at votes, just to remind you that you owe some money if you want to keep your committee assignment. Now, renting committee assignments and chairmanships, it should be illegal. If you did this sort of thing in a city council meeting or a state legislature, they would perp walk you in handcuffs in front of the evening news. But it's legal here, because who's going to make a law stopping us? Even the Constitution says that the House and the Senate shall make their own rules. Over the years, I suppose my bill is about $1.2 million. I paid $6,000. That was the first month that I was here. I didn't know any better. Ostensibly, the money goes for a good cause. Look, it's to keep us in the majority. And the Democrats do the same thing. It's to take back the majority. The problem is the incentive structure is set up to get you to sell out to lobbyists, because they're the only ones who have the currency you need, which is campaign dollars, to buy your committee assignment. It's a terrible choice. Why should you have to do this? You're faced with coming up here and prostituting yourself just so that you can get a committee assignment where you can represent your constituents the best.
I'm a capitalist, and I don't think there's anything wrong with corporations, businesses trying to make more money. I think it's what drives this country. I think it's produced more wealth in the United States and in the world. So capitalism is a good idea. When you use government to unfairly give your group or corporation or business an advantage over others that are out there that don't try to use that access either to fence out or to increase profits, that's bad. And oftentimes that's what lobbyists are involved in, is trying to use the system that we have to benefit themselves in an unfair way. And I was looking right in the camera. I was talking to the American people that time. They liked that.
Millions of people have died to make this country something better than it was, and now it's my responsibility if all goes to hell.
That's right. Let's go save a nation, Tom.
You can either quit or you can fight, and I'm not ready to quit. And with that, I will tell you that there is no way in heck that I'm not going to be back here in 2019. These attacks aren't true, and I can prove that. With this in mind, not for fear of losing or for lack of love for our great nation, today I am announcing that I will not seek re-election.